Good day, everyone. Hello. So our today's topic is about limit of a function. So for our lesson objectives, we have the following. Illustrate the limit of a function using its graph. Distinguish between limit of f of x as x approaches c and f of c. This is a limit notation, while this one is a functional notation. Illustrate the limit laws and apply this in evaluating the limit of algebraic functions, polynomial, rational, and radical function. So suppose we are to get the value of the function f of x, which is equal to x plus 3 as x approaches 0. Remember, this is a linear function, pero ang kailangan natin, no, palapitin siya sa 0. So sa left ng 0, we have negative 1. So 0, lagay natin sa gitna, and then sa right niya, meron tayong 1. So pwede natin consider yung behavior ng function habang nanggagaling siya dito sa negative 1 and then palapit kay 0. O di kaya nanggagaling siya sa side ni 1, palapit kay 0. As we know, there are still infinitely many numbers between negative 1 and 0, as well as between 0 and 1. So ang daming pwedeng mangyari, no? So looking at the graph of f of x, which is equal to x plus 3, ang graph niya will have intercepts negative 3 and positive 3. So ang concern natin, palapitin yung x sa 0. So we have this point. Yan yung tatargetin natin na lalapitan ng ating function. No? So yung point na yan, habang lumalapit yung x kay 0, lumalapit yung f of x sa certain y value, which is equal to what? Equal to the y-intercept, which is 3. So, ito yung nakuha natin na nilalapitan na value ng f of x as x approaches 0. So, we have this notation. We read this as the limit of x plus 3 as x approaches 0 equals 3. Okay, so in Tagalog, ang nilalapitan, parang nilalapitang value ng x plus 3 habang yung x ay lumalapit ng malapit na malapit kay 0 ay equal sa 3. Okay, so let's investigate the behavior now of the function defined by this quadratic equation. X squared minus x plus 2 as x approaches 2. Kanina as x approaches 0. So ngayon, kung manggagaling tayo sa left side ng 2, we have 1. Lagay natin yung 2 sa gitna. So sa kabilang side, meron namang 3. Again, our x can come from this side of 2 and from this side of 2. Okay? So tingnan natin yung graph niya. Yan, so it's a parabola. We are getting near to this point, no? So habang lumalapit tayo, trace natin yung path ng function. It's like here. Yan, papunta dun sa point na yon. This one, tas ito din, papunta dun sa point na yon, where x equals 2. So as x approaches 2, it approaches a certain value of y, which is equal to 4. Yan, so f of x, or the y function, y value, approaches 4. So we say the limit of x squared minus x plus 2 as x approaches 2 equals 4. So let's take a look at this graph naman. Pwede naman ding hindi given yung pangalan ng function or kung anong function siya. Just the graph lang, mahahanap natin yung limit. So like this, in this case, looking at the limit of f of x as x approaches 0, pupuntahan natin yung point na to. So pag ganun, so it's just a matter of looking at the y, corresponding y to this x equals 0. So that will be equal to 4. So ang answer natin will just be 4. Taking a look at this next example, ano naman yung limit ito as x approaches 0? So we're after this point here. So pagka itin-trace natin yung behavior ng function as x approaches 0 from the left, pag ganun, no? Lumalapit siya dun sa point na yon. Kung galing naman tayo sa right side ng function ng ating graph, pag ganun. Okay. Nonetheless, as x approaches 0, it approaches, the y value approaches a certain value of y, which is negative 3. So we say the limit of f of x as x approaches 0 equals negative 3. Now, what about, given pa rin yung function na to, same function, what about if x is approaching 1? So gusto natin dito naman sa point na to lumapit where x equals 1. Okay? So pag ganun yung behavior ng function, yan, lumalapit siya sa 1 from the left. Pag right naman, pag galing sa right, it's coming there, from there. So, lalapit siya dito sa point na to. Ano naman yung nilalapitang value ng y? It will be that point on the x-axis. Kaya y is 0. Okay? So, limit of f of x as x approaches 1 equals 0. Looking at those, we have this definition. We say that the limit of f of x is equal to capital L, where L is a certain value of real number, as x approaches c, and write this as this notation. Ayan. Sorry, dapat pala as x approaches a. Let's correct that. Yan natin ang correction. This approaches as x approaches a. Okay. So provided we can make f of x as close to capital L and we want for all x sufficiently close to a. Gusto natin napakaliit lang ng distance nitong dalawang to, di ba? Lumalapit ng malapit na malapit, habang yung distance naman nitong dalawang to becomes very, very small din. Okay? So, dapat yung f of x lumalapit ng malapit na malapit dun sa L. Okay? So, dapat mga 0.000001. Ganun kaliit, no? Actually, mas maliit pa dapat, mas marami pang zeros, no? So from both sides without actually letting x be a. Okay, so let's write the definition formally. We call this actually the epsilon-delta definition. Okay, so we say that the limit of f of x is capital L as x approaches a. Again, let's correct this. Ayan. Ayan, using this notation, limit of f of x as x approaches a equals capital L. If for every epsilon greater than 0, there exists a delta greater than 0. That's why this is called the epsilon-delta definition of the limit. Okay? So, anong ibig sabihin nitong if for sa bawat epsilon na greater than 0, there exists a delta greater than 0 such that whenever the distance of x and a is very, very small or less than delta, where x is not equal to a, sorry, medyo makulit yung c, then f of x minus capital L, yan, yung distance naman ito is very, very small, should be less than epsilon, yan, where epsilon and delta are both positive numbers, pero napakaliit dapat nila nung distance nito, ayan. So, dapat masasatisfy yun. So, parang ang goal natin dito ay makahanap ka ng delta given a certain epsilon or for every epsilon. No? Kunwari, ang delta na nakuha mo is epsilon plus 1. Yan. Kunwari, nakuha mo delta is epsilon plus 1. For example lang. So, ibig sabihin, for every epsilon, may delta ka kasi mag-add ka lang ng 1, you have a delta. O di kaya kung nakuha mong delta is epsilon over 2. O yan. So, ibig sabihin, sa bawat epsilon, i-half divide mo lang yun sa 2, meron kang delta. So, yun yung mga examples natin na for every epsilon, meron kang nakukuhang delta. Yan. Usually, ang notation natin dito, less than or equal. Kasi gusto natin, mas maliit pa sana as much as possible. Kino-consider natin na it's possible na less than pa siya si delta. Kasi nga, pinapaliit natin yung difference nila. Okay, so let's show using the epsilon-delta definition of limit yung kanina na pinakita natin using the graph. Ito yun, di ba? Yung limit of x plus 3 as x approaches 0 is indeed equal to 3. Ayan, di ba ito yung nakuha natin kanina? This was the graph. Ito yun eh. Okay. So we want to show that for every epsilon greater than 0, there exists a delta, parang templated na tong format na to. There exists a delta greater than 0 such that if x minus, this is our a, x minus 0 is less than delta, then the value of the function, ito naman yung sasubtract mo, x plus 3 minus 3, siya naman yung less than epsilon. Notice that you can simplify this part. So, magka-cancel lang to. So, that means absolute value of x will just be less than epsilon. Ayan. So, notice that in here, dito sa part na to, yung absolute value of x minus 0 can also be written as absolute value of x, and that's less than delta. So, comparing this two, yan, ibig sabihin, ito tsaka ito, yan, halos parehas lang. So, that means our delta is less than or equal to epsilon. Ayan. So, for every epsilon, may makukuha kang delta na less than or equal sa kanya. Okay. So, na-prove mo na using the epsilon-delta definition that the limit of x plus 3 as x approaches 0 is indeed equal to 3. So, ito yung ating relationship. Okay, this is simpler kasi ano lang tayo, linear function, no? Madali lang makuha yung relationship ng delta with epsilon. Now, what about dun sa quadratic natin kanina? Ayan. So, di ba we have established from the graph that the limit as x approaches 2 of x squared minus x plus 2 is equal to 4. How do we show that using the epsilon delta definition? Sabi natin, ito na yung template natin, parang pattern, no? It's a matter of just replacing our part here, that's x minus a, where a is 2. So, we write here 2. Tapos, ito naman, isa-subtract. That's x squared minus x plus 2. And then we have minus 4. We can simplify that. That will be x squared minus x minus 2 less than epsilon. Okay, so notice that we can factor this. Again, our goal is to establish a relationship between epsilon and delta. Yan. So, we can factor this. That will become x minus 2, x plus 1, or x plus 1, x minus 2. Yan. So, prerequisite knowledge dito, as you know, is factoring, no? And you also here, using the properties of absolute value. So, pwede nating paghiwalayin to as x minus 2, x plus 1. Okay. Now, ito x minus 2 less than epsilon, less than delta. Ito naman, meron kang kasamang factor, no? You cannot divide both sides. We cannot divide both sides by the absolute value of x plus 1 since there's the variable x, no? Pwedeng mag-0 kasi yun, no? When x is negative 1. So, we cannot make this as our divisor right away here, no? So, gagawin natin is to manipulate the equation. No? So, we have to find a constant k such that the absolute value of x plus 1 is less than k. Yan. So, dapat ano siya, hindi siya mag-0, no? So, anong lalabas po niyan? Meron tayong ganito. Yan. If x is confined to some interval centered at 2, kasi di ba as x approaches 2 naman, ito siya. Ano siya dyan. Then we can find k. So for instance, suppose x minus 2 is less than 1. Di ba? Which is the same as, ibig sabihin ng absolute value of x minus 2 less than 1, x minus 2 is less than 1 but greater than negative 1. Okay. So, bali lalabas dito, x is less than, if you add 2 on both sides, you have 3. Tapos dito, you have 1. Eh, ang gusto natin yung x plus 1. So, ito, itong part na to. So, we need to add 1 on both sides. So, plus 1. 3 plus 1 is 4. 1 plus 1 is 2. So, absolute value of x plus 1, pwede natin sabihin, is less than 4. From this portion. Okay? Ayan. So, anong gagawin natin? Balikan natin yung kanina. We had absolute value of x plus 1. Absolute value of x minus 2 is less than epsilon. Now, this is now less than 4. Sabi natin, this is less than 4. So, pwede natin sabihin x plus 1, x minus 2, less than 4 times absolute value of x minus 2 less than epsilon. Now we can conveniently divide both sides here. Let's focus on this side. We can conveniently divide now by 4. So we can have the absolute value of x minus 2 less than epsilon over 4. Okay. Ayan. So kanina, na-establish natin to, yung x minus 2 less than epsilon over 4. Tapos kanina, meron tayong absolute value of x minus 2 less than 1, no? So, ibig sabihin, meron tayong dalawang inequalities for absolute value of x minus 2. Pwede siyang less than 1. Yan. And absolute value of x minus 2 is less than epsilon over 4. So, di ba ito yung ibig sabihin, ito yung delta natin. Kasi, di ba, remember, absolute value of x minus 2 is less than delta. Yan, di ba? Yun yung kanina nating nasa template natin. So, that means para ma-meet tong parehong objectives na to, yan, this one and this one, ibig sabihin, ito yung less than delta eh. This is also less than delta. So, that means the delta must be less than or equal to the minimum. That is how we write it. Kung sino mas mababa sa kanya, kung sino mas maliit. No? The minimum, which parang ibig sabihin, whichever is lower between 1 and epsilon over 4. Yan. So, delta is less than or equal to that. Kasi gusto nga natin, mas maliit yung delta natin as much as possible. Diba? Yan. Okay. So, ayun. Parang pwede natin sabihin delta is less than or equal to the minimum or the lower between 1 and epsilon over 4 whenever yung x squared minus x minus 2 is less than epsilon. Okay. So, ayun po. That's it. Now, what do you notice about these two examples natin? Ito, tsaka ito. Okay? Kung napapansin nyo, ibig sabihin parang, teka lang, parang ito, pag sinubstitute mo sa x, you get 0 plus 3 equals sa 3. So, same as here, you have, if you substitute 2 to your x, you have 4 minus 2 plus 2, and that is just equal to 4. Ayan. So, ibig sabihin, parang nagsasubstitute lang pala tayo. So, bakit parang pinapahirapan pa natin yung sarili natin? May pa epsilon delta pa, may pa graph pa. Kasi it's not always true for all cases. Okay? So, it's important that we know that the limit of f of x as x approaches c is equal to f of c if f of c is a real number. Otherwise, if f of c is not a real number, you don't do that. So, ito yung nagsasubstitute lang. Sabi nga ng Nike, just substitute or just do it pala yun. Ano? So, nagsasubstitute tayo if f of c is a real number, meaning pwede siyang negative, pwedeng fraction ng dalawang integers, pwedeng radical, pwedeng square root of 2, square root of 3, pwedeng, syempre, lalo na yung mga integers, pwede yung mga whole numbers, pwede yun. Okay? Pwedeng 0, 0 is a real number also. So let's have an example here. Let's have limit as x approaches 3 of x squared minus 9. So if you're to substitute x, this 3 to your x, that will just be 9 minus 9, kaya 0. For the second one, ito, magiging 4 plus 3, 7 over 1. So that will just be equal to 7. So number 3 naman, if you have x approaching 5, this will be 5 plus 4 is 9. So square root of 9 will be 3. So, okay tayo. These are all real numbers. So, sinasubstitute lang natin yung mga numbers na to dun sa variable, dun sa function. Okay? Now, what about in here? You have 1 minus 5, negative 4. Negative, pwede pa rin. Real number pa rin yan. So, okay pa din value yan ng limit. In here, you have 16 minus 16 is 0. 4 minus 4 is also 0. So that would be 0 over 0. 0 over 0 is not a real number. That is indeterminate. So may gagawin pa tayo dyan. That is not considered a value of a limit. Okay? Indeterminate form is not a value of a limit. As well as undefined, yung mga constant over 0. Sabi nga natin, pagka ganito yung form, sasabihin mo sa sarili mo, oo, kasi may gagawin pa tayo. It's not the value of the limit. Pag ganito naman, non-zero number over 0, this is a no-no. It's not a value of a limit then. Okay? Pero kung 0 over a non-zero number, yun, it's okay. Yan, so okay yan. Okay. So in here, you have 5 plus 4, 9. Square root is 3 over 5. So, 3/5, that is a fraction. Pwede ba yan? Real number pa rin. So, okay pa din siyang value ng limit. Okay. So, meron tayong mga properties ng limit. So, limit of a sum is equal to the sum of the limits. Okay. Tapos, limit of a product is equal to the product of their limits. Kapag may constant tayo, pwede nating ilabas lang to So limit of a constant, yan, is equal to constant times the limit. Okay? Magiging coefficient ng limit yung constant natin. Tapos pag may limit tayo ng quotient, it's equal to the quotient of the limits provided that the limit of g of x as x approaches a or the denominator is not 0. Okay. Now for the next part, you have the power, parang power of a limit, no? So limit of f of x raised to the power n is equal to the limit raised to the power n. Okay. Kapag ka-radical naman, limit of the nth root is equal to the nth root of the limit. Yun. Okay, so let's take a look at this example. Paano natin gagamitin yung ating mga properties kung hindi given this time yung function. Ang given is yung value ng limit. Okay? We're given with the limit of f of x as x approaches 2, that is 8. Tapos yung limit ng sum is equal to 3. We're asked to find the limit of g of x. Okay, syempre dapat same lang yung ina-approach ng x natin. Consistent dapat. Hindi pwedeng dito x approaches 2, tapos dito x approaches 3. So dapat pare-pareho. Okay? So as we know, the limit of this sum is equal to the sum of their limits. Okay? Tapos this part is given. Andito siya. So we can replace this entire thing as 3. So replaceable lang siya ng isang number, no? It's just represented by 3. Tapos ito din can be represented as this using this part. That's just equal to 8. So i-manipulate na lang natin to algebraically by moving this to the other side. So we have the limit of g of x to be equal to 3 minus 8, which is negative 5. Ayun, that's it. We were able to find the value of the limit, though we don't know what the particular function of g of x is. Yan. So in this case naman, we're asked to find the limit of the square root of g of x minus 1. So same naman yung given, kaya lang you have a difference here. Okay? So we start with the property. So limit of the difference is equal to the difference of their limits. Ayan, so ini-spread out natin. We can represent this as a single number 3 using this given. So replace natin siya. Same as this one, no? This is replaceable by 8. Yan. So yung limit na to, make it positive, we move it to the other side. Okay, so itong 3 na lang yung lilipat. So that would be 8 minus 3, which is 5. Positive, no? Ang gusto natin is the limit of the square root. So, gamitin natin yung property, no? So, this is replaceable by this one, no? Square root of the limit, okay? Pwede natin itong paghiwalayin. Yan, limit of g of x minus 1. Take note that the limit of a constant is equal to 1. Yan. The limit of a constant is equal to the constant. In this case, the constant kasi is 1. Okay, parang pwede mo siyang i-distribute within a difference. No? So, this one, nakita natin na equal yun sa 5 from this previous solution. So, we can replace this part by 5. So, we have 5 minus 1, which is 4. Square root of 4 will be equal to 2. So, that's it. That answers the problem, the question that was posted here. Okay, so here's what we were able to establish so far on limit. To evaluate the limit of f of x as x approaches a, we substitute a to the variable in the function. Okay, parang yun yung standard first procedure. We substitute it to the variable. If the answer is a real number, we stop. That is we have found the value of the limit already. But if the answer is 0 over 0, we consider step 2. Kapag indeterminate, no? We consider step 2. So pag nag-step 2 tayo, we either factor or rationalize, no? Sa step 1, substitution pa lang, no? So we eliminate the factors that cancel out and then substitute a to our x. Balik ulit tayo sa pag-substitute to sa variable. Yan. Commonly, it's x pero hindi po parating x yun. No? Minsan y, minsan t, minsan r. Yan. So it can be any other variable. If the answer is a real number, we stop. Otherwise, may gagawin pa tayo. Okay? Let's consider this illustrative example. We have limit of x squared minus 5x plus 6 over x squared minus 4 as x approaches 2. Ayan. Commonly, may 0 over 0 tayo kapag ganitong mga rational functions. Okay? Usually, mga polynomials naman, may evaluate kagad natin siya right away. So, eto naman, meron kang pag sinubstitute, diba? Magiging 0 over 0 to. So, we considered factoring. So, factoring the numerator, we have x minus 3, x minus 2. Make sure your factors are correct. Yan. So, that's a very important prerequisite skill. Dito naman, this is a difference of 2 squares. So, square root nila, x and 2. Sum and difference of their square roots. Okay? So, magka-cancel yung x minus 2. Ito yung nagpapa-0 over 0 sa ating expression. So now we can substitute the 2 to our x. This is 2 minus 3, which is negative 1. 2 plus 2 is 4. Yan. So the answer will just be negative 1 over 4 or negative 1/4. Okay? May bibigay akong isang tip sa inyo pagka may nakita tayong ganito, tapos 0 over 0. Okay? Minsan kasi nagsistruggle tayo dun sa factoring. Actually, pagka nakita natin yung ganito, tapos 0 over 0 yung form, we expect, yan, papalitan natin to ng minus. So, that means parang yung x minus 2 is the expected factor to cancel out. Okay? So, ayun. Para alam na natin na yung isang factor mo is x minus 2, madali na yung other factor. So, lagay mo na yung x coming from x squared. Diba? X and x. Tapos 6 divide by negative 2, you have negative 3. O diba? Mas madali na. So, you expect x minus 2 to cancel out. So, dapat may x minus 2 ka din dito. May x ka dito. So, negative 4 divide by negative 2 is positive 2. Ayan. So, parang yung kasamahang factor na lang yung iisipin mo kasi you already know the factor that will cancel out. Okay, that is true for mga ganitong mga rational functions, mga algebraic functions na nasa 0 over 0 na form. So we have these other examples. Let's consider this one. So finactor natin yung numerator. We expect x minus 3 to cancel out. Yan, so ayun si x minus 3. Oh. So sa baba, meron din tayong x plus 3, x minus 3. Okay, so nag-cancel yung x minus 3. We just have this. So 3 plus 3 is 6. So we have 2 6 or 1/3. Okie dokie. Now let's go to example 2. We expect x minus negative 1 to cancel out. X minus negative 1 is actually x plus 1. Okay. So ang numerator natin, ayun si x plus 1 times x plus 1. Tapos sa denominator, ayun si x plus 1, x minus 3. Okay? Again, make sure your factors are correct. So magka-cancel yung x plus 1 as expected. Now we can substitute the negative 1. Negative 1 plus 1 is 0. Okay. Tapos sa baba, negative 1 minus 3 is negative 4. So 0 over negative 4 is just 0. Okay. So, nakakadalawang limits na tayo. Now, let's go to number 3. Okay, dokie. Meron kang as x approaches 4. Again, nasa 0 over 0 na form ito. Okay? 0 over 0, so we expect x minus 4 to cancel out. Okay, so hindi tayo magpa-factor this time kasi we have this radical. Tas wala ding factorable, no? So, mag-rationalize tayo. We multiply by the plus version of this denominator, diba? That's how we rationalize. Okay? So square root of x plus 2, sa taas din square root of x plus 2. Ayan, so ano yung magiging product nitong dalawang to? Sum and difference, no? So x minus 4. We expect x minus 4 to cancel out. Okay? Notice that we leave this numerator in factored form. We don't apply distributive property kasi nga you want the x minus 4 to cancel out. Okay, so you leave the numerator in factored form. So yung x minus 4 mo sa baba will cancel out. Okay. Ayan, so ang natira na lang sa'yo sa taas, yung square root of x or square root of 4 is 2 plus 2. So that will be 4. So that's it. You have a value for your limit already. Okay. Now what about this one? Limit as h approaches 0. This time your h is the variable na sa substitute mo, no? So again, that will be x cubed minus x cubed, 0. 2 times 0, 0. So 0 over 0. We expect h minus 0. H minus 0 is h. So we expect h to cancel out. Okay? So let's factor the numerator. Okay? Factoring our numerator, anong lalabas niyan? Difference of 2 cubes, no? So we have x plus h minus x. That's the first factor. The cube root of this minus the cube root of this. Tapos second factor will be the square of this one. Okay. Tapos, ano yung susunod na factor kapag ganito? Plus the product of this and this one. So that will be plus x plus h. Tapos plus the square of this one plus x squared. Okay. Yan. So as h approaches 0, I notice that this one, x minus x will cancel. Ayan. Ay, sorry. That's the neater version. Let me erase my writings. Okay. Ayan. So magka-cancel yung x minus x. Tapos yung h na lang yung matitirang factor, ayun, magka-cancel na siya. Yay! With that one. Okay? Tapos, as h approaches 0, we can now substitute the h, the 0 to our h. Substitute natin si 0 sa ating h. This will be x squared. This will be x times x. So, x squared din. Tapos, this is another x squared. So, we have, ayan, 3x squared sa taas. Tapos sa baba, we just have 2. So the answer here is just 3x squared over 2. Yan. So that's the value of our limit in number 4. Now what about for number 5? We have limit as x approaches 0. Ayan. So again, we expect x minus 0 or simply x to cancel out. So magka-cancel dapat to. Ang rationalizing factor natin will be, sorry. This time I have to do my writing. Yan. So if this is a minus, this will be a plus version. No? So this will be square root of x plus 3. Yung nasa labas plus square root of 3 para maging sum and difference. So we do the same thing on the denominator. Again, we have this notation. Since we haven't evaluated the limit, tapos sa taas, we have x plus 3. The square of this is x plus 3 minus the square of this one, which is also 3. Sa baba, we leave this in factored form. We have x times square root of x plus 3 plus square root of 3. This will cancel out. Tapos yung x din magka-cancel out. Let's use a different color for that. Yan. So, ang mangyayari, pwede na nating i-simplify. Diba? Magiging 1 na lang yung nasa taas. So, we have limit of 1 square root of x plus 3 plus square root of 3 as x approaches 0. Ayan. So, this will be equal to 0 plus 3 is 3 then. So, square root of 3 plus another square root of 3, that will be 2 square root of 3. Tapos may 1 ka doon. We rationalize this. So the final answer will just be square root of 3 all over 6. So ito po yung ating value for our given limit. Okay, now for number 6. Ayan, so we have x approaches 1/2. So anong ini-expect natin? Si x minus 1/2 will cancel out. Pero this time, this is a fraction, no? Kaya ito yung gagamitan natin ng bottoms-up technique. So, yung bottom na to, i-up natin dito. So, that will be equivalent to 2x minus 1. So we expect 2x minus 1 to be the factor that will cancel out. Okay. Ayun. So I'm sorry, there should have been a correction pala here. This should have been minus 1. Okay. Two x plus 1, 2x minus 1. Okay. Ay, wait lang ha. This is 2x minus 3. 2x minus negative 3, no? So, negative 3, positive 1. I think there's a correction lang with the, what do we call this? The 1/2. It should be negative 1/2 rather. Sorry for that. It should have been negative 1/2. Yan. So, x minus negative 1/2 is x plus 1/2. No, x minus negative. So, 2x plus 1 pala. Yung ina-expect natin that will cancel out. Okay? Kaya sabi ko parang 2x plus 1 to. Sorry for that type. That's a typo. So, you have limit as x approaches negative 1/2 of 2x plus 1. That's the expected factor to cancel out. Again, this is a sum of two cubes. So the other factor is 4x squared minus 2x plus 1. Okay. Sa baba naman, ito yun. So we have 2x plus 1 automatically. So 4x squared divided by 2x is another 2x. Negative 3 divided by positive 1 is negative 3. Tama ba siya? So we have 2x negative 6x. Negative 6, positive 2. Medyo may mali yata yung sa middle term natin. Negative 6 and positive 2 is negative 4. I think this should have been negative 4x. Sorry for the correction again. That should have been negative 4x. Kasi otherwise, that would not have been factorable. Okay. Ayun, so sorry about that. So the 2x plus 1 will cancel out. So as x approaches negative 1/2 anyway, that will be 4 times negative 1/2 squared is positive 1/4 minus 2 times negative 1/2 plus 1 for the numerator. For the denominator, we have 2 times negative 1/2 minus 3. So this will be 1. 1, tapos this one will be positive 1. 1, positive 1, positive 1 is 3. Tapos for here, we have negative 1 minus 3. That's negative 4. So the final answer is negative 3/4. Okay, so that's the value of the limit for this example. Okay. Sorry for the typo mistakes. So I hope we are ready for our time for questions. Let's have the limit of x squared minus 2 as x approaches 3. Okay, I will fast forward our timer. So the answer there is 9 minus 2 is 7. 9 minus 2 is 7. So the answer is just 7. Oops, parang warm up lang pala yun. So ito pala yung talagang number 1. So what is the limit of 4x squared plus 2x minus 3 as x approaches 1/2? So fast forward ko na naman ang ating timer. So we have 4 times 1/4 plus 2 times 1/2 minus 3. This is 1 plus 1. 2 minus 3 is negative 1. So this is the value of our limit. Okay, now let's go to number 2. What is the limit of x squared minus 4 over x plus 3 as x approaches negative 2? Okay, so the answer here will be Negative 2 squared is positive 4. We have minus 4. Negative 2 plus 3 is positive 1. So 4 minus 4 is 0 over 1. So the answer is 0. So this is our value for the limit. Now what about number 3? We're given with limit of f of x as x approaches 9 equal to 32. Limit of g of x is equal to 17. What is the limit of the difference of f of x minus g of x as x approaches 9? Okay, I will fast forward again our timer. So we can just distribute this to the limit of f of x minus limit of g of x. Both are approaching, both having x approaching 9. So this mean when is equal to 32. The subtrahend is equal to 17. 32 minus 17 is just 15. So this is the value of our limit. Okay, so I hope you got that one correctly. Now what about number 4? You can just pause our video if you want to have more time answering. Limit of f of x equals 3. Limit of 5 times f of x plus 2g of x equals 1 as x approaches 4. Yan. What about the limit of g of x as x approaches 4? Okay, so fast forwarding our timer, let's focus on this part. We can write this as, at the same time, yung coefficient natin, lagay natin sa labas. 5 times limit of f of x as x approaches 4 plus this one naman. The next limit will be 2 limit of g of x as x approaches the same number 4. Okay. Now this is given. That's equal to 3. So we have 5 times 3 here. Tapos 2. This part is missing. So we don't know what the value of this is. Sabihin natin that is equal to capital L. Okay. But we know the value of the limit of this. No? That is equal to 1. So we use that here. Okay. So we can just manipulate this algebraically. So we have 2L equal to 1 minus 15 or negative 14. So we have the value of the limit to be equal to negative 14 over positive 2, and that's negative 7. So that's the limit we are looking for. What about number 5? What's the limit of x squared minus 16 over x squared minus 3x minus 4 as x approaches 4? Okay, I will fast forward our timer. So, i-substitute natin yung 4. That will be 0 over 0. So, magiging expected factor to cancel out is x minus 4, no? So, we have limit as x approaches 4 of x minus 4. Lagay na natin si x minus 4, the expected factor to cancel out. This will be x plus 4. Tapos the other factor, negative 4 over negative 4 is positive 1. So this should have been x plus 1. Okay, so magka-cancel yung x minus 4 as expected. Now we substitute 4 to our x. So 4 plus 4 is 8. 4 plus 1 is 5. So we have the answer 8/5. Okay, what about question number 6? What's the limit of this square root of the fraction y minus 3 over y cubed minus 27 as y approaches 3? Okay, so nasa 0 over 0 na naman to. So at the same time, ano tayo, factoring. Kasi the denominator, notice that the denominator is factorable. So we have y minus 3. This is a difference of 2 cubes. So we have y minus 3. We expect y, diba? Replacing this by the minus sign, we expect y minus 3 to be the factor to cancel out. Okay? So y minus 3, tapos sa kabila na factor y squared plus 3y plus 9. So it pays to know your factors. So the y minus 3 will cancel out. So we have 1, we can replace our y by 3. 9 plus 9 plus another 9 here. So that will be 1 over square root of 27. Yan. We can just multiply both sides, both numerator and denominator by 3 para maging 81, which is a perfect square already. So the answer will be square root of 3 over square root of 81, which is 9. Okay, so that's it. This is our final answer. Okay, so I hope you are learning. I hope you got 6 out of 6 in this activity. So to end our discussion, don't limit your challenges. Challenge your limits. Goodbye and God bless everyone.